Well, she has been summoned by our legal team here.
Yes.
Dr. Rebecca Carr, the anesthesiologist, an expert on the use of propofol.
Leo, why don't you start? You had a few for
Thank you very much. One question.
Okay,
And Conrad Murray team, listen to this. Dr. Carr, let me ask you a question. The decision by Dr. Murray to attempt to try to revise Michael Jackson prior to calling 911, was that something unreasonable, or is that something that you would find consistent within the medical profession?
That's actually something that is in the written guidelines and procedures for administering CPR, that when somebody comes upon a person who is down, especially if you're alone, the first thing that the person is supposed to do is to try to resuscitate them themselves by opening the airway and trying to get them to breathe.
Thank you. There it is, folks. There it is. There it is. There's your defense.
That's the problem, is that you said that it takes about 20 to 30 seconds for the propofol to work, and in that time frame, you can lose your patient because that's when the airway gets blocked and you need to be there, right?
Yeah, if you give a big enough dose of propofol for the person to stop breathing after they lose consciousness, the anesthesiologist just breathes artificially for the patient for a few minutes until the patient starts breathing on their own again.
There's oxygen equipment there available to you.
Right. It's right there.
Next question, guys.
Your turn, buddy.
That being said, even if the administering of CPR prior to calling 911 was the proper thing to do, let's take a step back. How about the actual administering of the propofol in that context, in a home, without proper medical staff and instruments to assist in rendering aid to that person? Negligent, gross negligent, or exactly the way he should have been doing it?
I agree with the prosecution experts. It's gross negligence. I agree.
And do you think that using propofol in and of itself as a sleeping aid, proper, improper, or recklessly endangering a patient's life?
Recklessly endangering a patient's life.
So what does the defense do?
Well, here it is. We got a concession on the issue of the 911. Mm-hmm. I'm going to pull a page out of. I listened to Christine Devine off record, and there's a commission study that was done saying that propofol could be used as a sleeping aid. Now, if that evidence is true, would it be so far outreaching?
She has an answer because we were talking about this already.
Would it be so far outreaching that what Murray did was consistent with his medical research that has stated that propofol can be?
She has your answer.
Okay, let's hear it.
Well, first of all, I'm going to say there is what we call off-label use of medications in this country. So a drug that is FDA approved for one thing can be used for something else and can be done safe and effectively, even if there isn't research to prove that. It does happen. But as far as propofol being used as an insomnia drug, it's never going to happen. It's completely impractical because you would have to have an anesthesiologist or nurse anesthetist, all the monitoring equipment, oxygen, all of that, and the individual who was administering it would be in the room with the patient for the entire time they were asleep. It's never going to happen.
Your thought is that it certainly wouldn't be used in the home setting like Dr. Murray used it in this case.
No.
So even if there was a study being done, perhaps it would be in the hospital with the staff, with the equipment,
right,
not in the home. You just don't see that.
If there were some sort of clinical study going on, they would certainly be protecting patient safety.
Now, guys, this is definitive. You have an expert here.
Right.
She has pretty much laid the case out for what should have been done that was not done by Dr. Murray. What can the defense do to combat that?
Well, I'll tell you right now, I'm going to hammer on that inconsistency between the prosecution expert who said he should have called 911, and I'm going to rely on what Dr. Carr said. I'm going to try, Carlos and Christine, to focus on one or two jurors who I may perceive and say, you know, I got some doubt. Maybe it's not gross negligence. I may not win the whole jury over, but I just want one or two, and then I can fight another day.
He's right there, but really with this, you got to address, if you're the defense team, the overall negligence in using the drug in that condition and leaving the patient and not tending to them immediately or in those opening moments. And so their experts have to address it. But more importantly, somebody has to be on the witness stand by the end of this case saying what he did and why he thought that care was proper.
Translation, he's talking about Dr. Murray again, which we disagree on.
All right, so there's one little wrinkle that I'm just going to throw in there. If I was sitting on the jury, I would think to myself, all right, I've just heard all this expert testimony, all this great technical stuff, and Dr. Murray was on the phone with his girls?
Yeah, I mean,
that's going to be
that
tough.
hurts.
Yeah.
That hurts a lot. But again, the question is negligence versus gross negligence and whether or not there's something standard proof.
Right.
Okay. What's ahead? in the Conrad Murray trial.
Yes, let's find out our panel of experts right here. We're going to return and look at what's expected next week. We may have one dark day, but the rest of the week should be action-filled. We'll be right back.
Want to follow the Michael Jackson?